Hello again, everyone. Ken from Whittling Woods, back again with another whittling wood carving video. Today we're going to do a video that was essentially prompted by one of my viewers by the name of Greg, who had asked about these whittles over here that I had done, a few months back. And he asked about doing these in a tree branch. These were done in Eastern White Pine, dimensional lumber. And as you can see right here, or hopefully you can see, this one is done in a tree branch. This is going to be the subject of today's video. And I thought I'd take the opportunity to use this as a means of talking about the whittling hobby, basically presenting a path to getting into the whittling hobby, the key word being A. It's basically my suggestion. There's numerous ways you can get into the hobby, and this is just one suggestion. Maybe the way I would have approached it if I was starting out today. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is start with discussing some of the knives that you can consider using if you're getting into the hobby, some of the woods you can consider using as you get into the hobby, and then we're going to do a full demonstration of this particular whittle right here. It's a relatively easy, very approachable type of whittle. I think anyone who's interested in maybe getting into whittling and has some interest in doing a bit of a figure, but wants to do a very simplified figure, this is a perfect opportunity, and it's in found wood. Again, thank you to Greg for making a comment that prompted this type of video. So if you're interested in getting into the whittling hobby, stay tuned. Grab yourself your favorite beverage, sit down, relax, and let's see if we can convince you this is a fun hobby to get into. Alrighty, I'm going to get things set up, and I will be right back. First off, obviously the one tool you're going to need is a knife. And I have a selection here of various knives. And again, since we're looking at getting into the hobby here, how do you go about it? How do you choose a whittling knife? And I've done some videos on that, and a lot of people have too. I'm just going to give you some examples here of what you may want to consider. Let's start with the traditional way. I'll put these aside for a minute here. And this is a traditional whittling knife. It's by, as you can see here, North Bay Forge. I like their knives. I use them quite a bit. And this is it. This is one of their knives, and it's a great whittling knife, and it's sturdy. It does not only basswood, but it can do a lot of other woods. It's a really well-made knife, and that one's from North Bay Forge. That's your standard route. It doesn't have to be North Bay Forge. It can be Helvey. It can be there's a lot of manufacturers out there that you can potentially find well-made crafted knives. I wouldn't recommend going to those big online retailers, the ones I'm referring to, and buying some knockoff set of carving knives. Stay away from that. It's not the good thing. Research a good whittling knife, that is made by an individual or a small group of individuals that specialize in that. They're forged and crafted to a professional quality that you're not going to get buying some box set from one of those online retailers. That's one way. The other method that a lot of people like, and we're going to use this partially in this video, is a good old pocket knife. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to using a pocket knife. One, they're maybe not the most comfortable to hold, for long periods of time, although I don't really find that much of a problem. This one is a Rough Rider. Most people are familiar with Rough Rider knives. It's an old knife. I've had it for probably over 15 years, and I have about 3 of them that are like this. And they're great knives. I like them. I use them for my wood spirits and found wood. So this is a knife we're going to actually use a bit in this video. And they're good knives. Rough Rider still makes these knives. I will have a model number for this knife, but they don't make this specific type any longer. But there are ones that are similar to this that you can look into. And they're relatively affordable. Unlike the professional made knives, which are going to probably run you like the North Bay Forge knife, probably close to $60. These you can probably pick up for about $20. The third method is the old Stanley 199, and I've used this in a number of videos, and you can certainly, most people have some type of utility knife. The Stanley 199 is probably your best bet if you can, if you can find them. Pick one of these up. The advantages of the Stanley it's very, very inexpensive. The blades are replaceable, and the advantage of replaceable blades is to take a new blade or a brand new knife, pop one of the blades and start whittling, that's not going to work. These blades have to be sharpened up a bit and ground down a bit. The bevel has to be slightly shallow. I do have videos on the way I sharpen knives as well. You're going to have to do that. The nice thing about this, if you're brand new and you've never touched a knife before and you've never sharpened a knife before, this is a good way to learn. You're going to learn without being conscientious of destroying a $60 whittling knife. You've got a couple pennies in the blade there. Put it on a sandpaper, a wet dry sandpaper, or some type of diamond, ceramic stone, and practice your sharpening and honing skills with a knife like this. It's you don't feel you're not concerned about ruining it. If you do ruin the blade, pop in a new one and try again. That's the one nice advantage of this. And there are people who use these. I've used these quite a bit in whittling. In fact, I used to use them pretty much a number of years ago as one of the main knife. And there's other really amazing carvers who use this, and it can do the job. But again, you're going to have to work on this the blade before you can get it whittling ready. But that's another way to go about it. Two other ways are to make your own knife. This is one that I made from a boning knife, and I just cut it down a bit and again sharpened it up. I think it was an older boning knife I had and wasn't using for that purpose, so I decided to turn it into a whittling knife. You can certainly go about that. This was, I believe, maybe a 9-inch blade, and I cut it, sharpened it up, and now I have a whittling knife, and it's a great little whittling knife. It does a job, and again, it's going to teach you how to work and prepare blades for whittling. And if you're going to get into the hobby, there's really no way around it. You're going to have to learn how to sharpen. That's the one skill you're going to have to learn. And the other way is to make your knife from scratch. This was my good buddy Mark. He made me this knife, and he makes knives, and he did a great job on this one. And you can certainly, if you have Mark's amazing skills, make your own knife. I'm not quite to that level yet, but Mark made this knife and sent it my way a little while back. In fact, he's made me 3 knives and even this little cover for it. So that's another way to go about it. If you're handy enough, and eventually, when you're in this hobby long enough, you may want to test your skills at making your own knife. And this is an example of one made by one of my viewers and sent my way. Much appreciated, Mark, as always. I've used this in a number of videos already. So there you go. Those are some of the knives. There's, those are the main things. You have your dedicated whittling knife, your pocket knife, your Stanley 199, and then some type of homemade knife that you make. There's various ways to go about knives. And if you're in this hobby long enough, you're going to accumulate a number of knives that are probably meet all those categories. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. I'll talk about wood real quickly, and let me get things set up, and I'll be right back. Okay. Here are basically some whittling woods. We'll start with the one that most people use when they get into this hobby. It's basswood. It's a great whittling wood. It doesn't have a very pronounced grain. It's easy to whittle. You can buy it from a manufacturer that's buy it from a lumber yard that preferably has access to northern basswood. It seems to be the best basswood for whittling, and this is a piece. It's a 1-inch by 1-inch piece. And if you're starting out and you can grab yourself some basswood, this is the nice size to start with, the 1-inch by 1-inch. It's very easy to use, and you don't have you can make small little whittles in this and get your feet wet, so to speak. The other way is to find yourself some dimensional lumber. This happens to be a piece of eastern white pine that happens to be available in those big box stores up where I live here in the Northeast. So you may or may not have access to this, but it's a relatively decent whittling wood. As a matter of fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, these guys were made in eastern white pine. So it obviously can whittle. It's not going to hold as much detail as basswood, but it's also a good option if you want to go check it out. Go grab yourself some dimensional lumber. I wouldn't recommend the Douglas fir type things, you know, the 2x4 type material, that type of dimensional lumber. Stay away from that. It's too difficult to whittle. Try to find yourself some eastern white pine or something very similar to that. It's light enough, it's easy enough to carve, and it'll hold a sufficient amount of detail. So that's another way to go about it. And then the good old, with the type of whittling that I really love. So grab yourself some found wood. This happens to be a branch from, I don't know what type of tree it is. It was just some scrap tree that we have growing on our property border, and that is, you can certainly use that. I use these type of things all the time. This was this little wood spirit we did a few weeks back, maybe a couple months back. It was made the same branch, and this is oiled up, so it looks slightly different. But you can see you can get some nice fine detail in it, and I really enjoy carving in found wood, and that's what we're actually going to use this piece today to make something similar to this. So there you go. We're gonna maybe whittle it in the first top like that, and it'll be a simple little character. You can see here it's not too hard to do. You don't have to do the little pipe like I did, but we'll whittle him without the pipe, and then you can practice your skills on getting a little pipe in his mouth. Makes him more interesting, I think, to look at if you have that. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to use this piece of wood and whittle this little figure. So let me get things set up with that, and I'll be right back. I would be remiss if I didn't discuss this real quickly. The material you're going to need for sharpening a knife. This happens to be just a diamond stone that you can use. It's two-sided. It's 600 grit on this side, and if you flip it around, it's a 1200 grit. This is a good overall grind. Grind your blades down. Start with the 600 and work your way up to the 1200. And then also what you're going to need is some type of strop. And these are one you put on your workbench, and you move the knife back and forth across it. And this is one that I use where I hold it and I bring it and I move it across the blade like that. So there's a various way. And again, I'll have a link over here for the video I did regarding sharpening. And here's the other thing that many people are going to want to look into. Maybe find yourself a carving glove. It'll protect your hands, and because as most of us know, flesh and sharp blades, they don't work together all that well, especially if they come in contact with each other. You'll wind up having a bit of a red colored carving if you're not careful. But regardless of whether you wear a glove or not, the key thing is safety. Always remember where the blade is and where it's going. When you're whittling, you want to keep all the fleshy parts out of the way of the knife. So that's the key. Regardless of whether you're using a glove or not, don't get sloppy. Use a glove if it makes you feel more comfortable. Absolutely, I would highly recommend that. But again, the number one thing is know where that blade's going. I've said this many times, most of the cuts I've had are me grabbing a knife on my workbench, or putting it down or dropping it and hitting my hand. So that's you're always gonna have little accidents here and there, but you can avoid them if you're careful, and you always keep mindfulness in terms of where that blade is. But anyway, I just wanted to jump in real quick and say that. Let's get to the whittling. Be right back. What I'm going to do here, since we talked about knives, I'm going to use each knife in this video. We're going to start here with this Stanley, so you can kind of see all knives at work. And this is just obviously the easy stuff. We're literally taking the bark off here. So any knife will do the trick there. But and this wood is relatively, although it was cut about 3-4 months ago, I keep it in water so it stays, you can see here, this is not only green in terms of its dryness, it's also green in terms of its color, or yellow at least. And it obviously stays that way because if you saw the little wood spirit, it actually maintains a bit of a yellow hue to it. But I think over time that'll change. But there we are. I'm just removing some of the wood, some of the bark. And this is why it's a nice, this is a fun little way to do things if you're just getting into the hobby. Then we're going to just kind of go here and start to take the hat down a bit. So as you can see, you know, the Stanley does the job. It'll cut through. It'll cut through wood, but again, you know, get it ready to go. Don't just assume that the blade that came with the knife is whittling sharp. You're gonna have to do something to get it ready. And like I said, I do have that video, so check that link out if you're interested in seeing how I prepare my Stanleys. These are fun little projects for beginners because they're easy to do. And I know some people like to, what I recommend, a figure, not a detail figure, like the ones we're doing here is fine if it's one of your first whittles. You know, I might say start with a little evergreen tree. I'll have links for these, or a little mushroom. You know, they're nice to do as well. But these little figures too are doable. And I know a lot of people who get into whittling want to do little figures, gnomes and wizards and hillbillies and all that kind of fun stuff. And I did a hillbilly whittle, I think, last weekend, so check that out. I'll have a link for that as well if you're interested. I did that in a piece of basswood. In fact, that 1 inch, I think it was a 1 inch piece, maybe slightly bigger than that, but they're fun to do as well. But if you want to get into like a little figure type carving and not get overly detailed. I try to gear the videos in a lot of ways towards people like that because we want to encourage people in this day and age to pick up a hobby. And you know, whittling is one of those, you know, not to get on a soapbox or anything, but whittling is one of those hobbies where you can do it anywhere. Today, unfortunately, with the crazy economy we have, affording a house is very difficult for a lot of people, and they're in apartments. I have 2 kids myself that are both living in apartments, and it's you know, you don't have a lot of room to acquire a lot of tools. So and if you're interested in working with your hands, you know, you're limited. You can't buy bandsaws and table saws and routers and all that. You know, you just don't have the setup for it. Well, you can whittle. If you have a spare bedroom or even a living room, I'm using a spare bedroom, you know, right now to whittle. And a lot of times I do it even outside on the patio. So it's a type of hobby where you don't need to have a lot of space. And we want to encourage, especially, I'd love to encourage more younger people to pick up hobbies like this, or any type of hobby. It doesn't have to be whittling, but any type of hobby. You know, today, unfortunately, people are stuck, you know, using their phones for all their entertainment and all their activities. So put the phone down and pick up a hobby. I think whittling is a good one if you like working with wood. It's a fun little hobby. I have tons of videos on different types of things to whittle. You know, not just figures, but trees and mushrooms and oh, I did balloons actually last week, not a hillbilly. So yeah, I mean, crazy stuff. I even did a birthday cake whittle. So you know, there's plenty of little things you can try out. And there you go. Real quickly here, we have a little hat roughed out. All right. So I think it's time we'll try another knife. So let me get the other knife set up, and I'll be right back. We're using the knife that my viewer and good buddy Mark made for me. So if you have the skill to make your own knife, give that a shot and put that to work on your whittles. I'm just using different knives just to give you an idea of different knives that work in a whittle. That's all. You can see here, all I've done is create a little bit of where the hat area is going to be. And I'm just kind of whittling this area in the front. This is going to be his front over here and his nose right in there. So I'm just whittling that back just a little bit so we can get the nose to stick out a little bit more. And again, I just want to say thank you to Greg for suggesting or asking me about idea of doing this in a branch. I haven't, like I mentioned, I really enjoy working in found wood, so I call this found wood. I mean, technically, you could call a piece of dimensional lumber that you have to find found wood, but when I mean found wood, I mean just branches and stuff of that nature. So there you go. Alrighty, I think we'll put the bottom of the nose right about there so you can kind of see. I'll just put a little stop cut here, maybe cut up to it. And with these type of whittles, don't worry about the dimensions and how far down was that, or how deep was that cut. Just go by, get a sense of those on when you're doing the whittle. Don't fixate too much on the exact dimensions that one YouTube whittler uses, because you might say, well, he makes the noses too big, and I always have a tendency to do that. My noses always come out kind of big. I wonder why. So there you go. You can kind of see how we quickly, these are really quick whittles to do. You can do these, if you're in a park somewhere and you have some found wood, whittle this and leave it on the bench. Somebody will find it and you're all happy and make someone's day. What I typically like to do is I'll come in here and I'll start, well, you know what, let's just bring this down just a little bit more here. And let's work on, since we have a big knife out here, before we switch to a smaller knife for some detail, let's just work on using this knife to get the length of our figure. There you go. And they basically just have beard that comes down, covers their feet, and then there's just a little bit of an indication of I don't know, an outfit or something behind him. So let's do that now. And I think what you could do with these, it's kind of fun too, is just cut it here and leave a little bit of the bark on at the bottom, and that'll be a fun kind of thing to look at. So let's do that. Let's establish the bottom of his back kind of coat area, or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to kind of go around here. In fact, I'm going to go all the way around and just establish the bottom of the piece. So all I'm doing here is just circumnavigating the branch and creating a little bit of a boundary for our bottom of our piece. So I'm putting a stop cut in. You can see I'm putting a stop cut in, and I'm just cutting right up to that stop cut. You could do it that way, or you could do it this way, cutting down right to it. It's a little safer if you're doing it that way. You're cutting away from your hand. If you're doing it this way, and sometimes you have no choice. You have to do this, and you have to bring it down, towards your hand. You really want to avoid cutting towards yourself as much as possible. Again, safety, and in terms of where the blade is. So there you go. I mean, look how quickly we're able to just, with this kind of whittle, these kind of things, you move real fast through them. And if you're not blathering on like I am, you'll do it even faster, taking your time to try to stop periodically and show people. But there you go. So let's try out another knife. Let me get one set up and I'll be right back. An important note, I just wanted to jump back in here. When you're cutting green wood and it's kind of wet, before you put your knife away, before you put it back in the sleeve, dry it off. Take a towel, dry it off. And what I also like to do is to then strop it just a bit to, once you've wiped off any moisture, then just kind of, strop the blade a little bit. So you want to make sure there's no moisture left on the blade, because you might put it in its sheath and not come back to it for a week or so, and then you'll find you got rust on it. So, make sure your knives are, if you're using green wood, make sure Make sure you've dried them out before you put them away. That's something to keep in mind. Alrighty, I'll be right back. Now we're going to use a dedicated whittling knife, wood carving knife, and this happens to be North Bay Forge. What I typically like to do with these little whittles is add a little bit of, not like the hat straight up, so as you can see I'm kind of curving it over a little bit. You know, it just kind of adds a little bit more character, I think, to your whittles. You think of, in these simple whittles like this, think of ways to add a little bit of your own little design. I'm going to cut the top of the nose back in just a bit, just to deepen the top. So I'm coming in here right underneath the hat, and I'm cutting up to it. I put a little bit of a stop cut in here, and I just kind of cut right up to that. You can kind of see how that is now. All right, we can deepen this a little bit too. There you go. And then what we're going to want to do is come in here on the side and put a little stop cut. As you can see where my knife is, it's right along the nose. Just to, we're going to, at this point, we're just going to make a little bit of a, take out a little bit of wood. I made the cut here next to the nose, and then I'm going to make another one over here. And then we're just going to come up along the side of that nose and take out a little bit of wood over there just to reveal that. Now keep in mind, this is all technically hair in here, so you know, it's not, we're not worried about getting a lot of detail, a lot of depth in there. We're just basically want to define a little bit of the boundary of that hair and nose, so you can see. That's all we did over there. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side over here as well. We're going to come in here, bring our knife up to where the hat is. Put a little bit of a cut in there. Again, we're going a little bit deeper up at the top, and you know, shallow obviously down at the base of the nose, as you can kind of see. And then what I like to do is I come in here right there, and I put another stop cut in over here, because there's that little triangle of wood that you're going to come back with your knife, and try to keep it in camera here, and you're going to move to remove. I can get it. It's a little difficult under the camera like that, but there you go. Same thing we did on the other side. We're just removing a little chunk of wood over there to create the nose, to define that boundary a little bit more. And with that, you got the bulk of the whittle done, right? What you could do here is flare the nostrils up a bit. I like to do that a little bit. So I come in underneath, put a little cut there, come around that side, put another cut. So you kind of see. Pretty easy, right? Not a lot of detail, stuff to worry about. Again, have fun with these. Enjoy the process. Don't get hung up. I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there and a lot of fantastic whittlers out there that do great work. And sometimes, you know, if you watch the videos, you see how nice the carvings they do are, and then you do your own, and you know, you're just new to the hobby, and it doesn't come out quite as good. And you don't get discouraged. A lot of these people have been whittling for a long time, so what looks easy to them, or which you know appears easy for them to do, it's just like anything, any skill you have. It takes years to sometimes develop muscle memory to do these without thinking, so to speak. Not that you want to avoid thinking when you're whittling, but a lot of people can kind of work on a bit of an autopilot. So there you go. Maybe I'll undercut the bottom of the nose just a bit more. Something like that. So that's kind of essentially that part. Let's work on his mustache. We're going to put that right here. We're going to put a little cut right underneath the nose here. We're going to start the bottom of the mustache. So I'm just going to put a little cut in there, like so. and make another cut like so. Just like that. And then the same thing on this side. We're going to put a little cut. It's hard to see, I know, sometimes, and especially with green wood, your cuts seem to disappear very quickly as soon as you take the knife out. So, keep that in mind if you're using green wood like this. There you go. So we kind of established where the bottom of that where that bit of the mustache is. So I'm going to kind of come down here and just continue that mustache down and around, like so. You see? And we'll do the same thing on this side. Come in here, put a few stop cuts in, and bring the other side down as well. Remove a little bit of that wood right underneath there. There you go. Pretty easy, right? Or at least not that difficult to do. I think all of us could handle that. Lord knows if I can. I'm sure most of you can do it as well. All right. Next thing we're going to do is establish the boundary for his hair. So what I'm going to do here is come right to kind of where that nose line is, right at the bottom of the nose. I'm just going to put a little stop cut in there and cut up to that. This is going to be the hair kind of coming down along the side of his face and then wrapping around his head. There you go. And we can do the same thing on this side. We'll come down right here, right underneath the nose, kind of. Let me just clean that up right there a little bit. And we'll come down right here, kind of like where we were on the other side. Put a little stop cut in. I don't know if you can see that. And then just kind of, again, remove a little bit of the wood. And then just work your way around like we did on the other side. So there you go. Just going to come down here and just connect those hair, that area of hair, so to speak. And if it's not perfectly symmetrical on both sides, don't worry about it, because it's supposed to be kind of a fun little character, And then I'd like to, at this point, just kind of bring the mustache up a little bit on both sides. Just start to curve it up a little bit. Bring it into the back like so. You can see that? Same thing over here. Round that bottom out just a little bit more. So we got the kind of the mustache kind of curving around, and we got the hair over here. All right. And then the other thing I'm going to do is just kind of come down here. We're going to put to separate, this is beard area, so we're going to put a stop cut in here. I'll come down. And we're going to remove some wood over there. But you know what? I just realized I'm spending too much time on this knife. Let me grab a pocket knife. I'll be right back. Okay, we got our little Rough Rider pocket knife in here. I'm just kind of come down here. I'm just going to reinforce that line I made. So there you go. A little stop cut under there. And then we're going to want to remove some of the wood front. Or excuse me, we want to make it a little bit deeper in the back over here. So this little area of wood is going to be where the beard kind of ends and the cloak begins. So all I did was I just kind of deepened that just a bit over there. So there you go. We got a bit of a beard, mustache, hair. We're almost done this guy, right? We'll come over here, we'll put another little cut on this side. Same kind of thing, just coming down with my knife. You can see, right? Put a little cut in here and start removing that wood. Same thing we did on, just like we did on the other side. Simple little thing to do here. It's not all that difficult. Now you can kind of come back and start adding detail if you want. This is a nice, easy introduction to simple little whittles, figure whittles. Not a whole heck of a lot of detail that you have to concern yourself with, yet fun and interesting when all is said and done. Sometimes I notice that with videos, people tend to like these kind of little figures like this. I don't know if it's just that they're simple. They are relatively simple to do, and people find them just approachable in that regard, and which is great. If that helps get people interested in it, then I'm only happy to oblige. Alrighty. What you could do is, in an effort to add a little bit more detail, you could add some nostrils in here. Let's make sure we got our bottom of our nose where we want it. All right, and what I do is I'll come along the edge over here. You can kind of see where my knife is on the nose. Put my knife in the wood, just like so. Just make a little stop cut. Cut up and down to it. Just to remove a little bit of a notch in there. And you sort of, by doing that, very unassuming whittle, or unassuming cut, you've created a little bit of a nostril area in there. And then I like to just, make sure I clean it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll come in here and I'll hollow that part out right there, right where the nostril is. So there you go. You can kind of see how that is, maybe in that view. Make sure you do that nostril cut after you've established the bottom of your nose. Don't do it and then try to cut the bottom of your nose, because then your nostril's going to be probably too small. All right, and then do the same thing on this side over here. I like to try to start in the same place if I could. So let's say I'm right about there, and I've angled it downward. I think that's pretty good. There you go. So there you go. You have a little bit of a kind of a nostril area that we just made, but just making a couple little simple cuts like so. I think at this point here we can start thinking about, now that we have everything established, you can start thinking about how much detail you want to add to it. You want to add, different cuts for the hair to break up the hair a little bit more. You could do that. Pretty simple. We can kind of come in here and start working our way around. Put a little stop cut, just working towards in the back over here, and put a little. Just take out little chunk of wood on either side, just to split it up like that. You know, you might want to come back underneath. And you'll just go around and do stuff like that, you know, to whatever level you want. Put a little cut in here. And just start breaking up the hair, like so. And you can, like I said, you can start getting creative and bring some side, you know, just changing the, try to add a little bit of dimension to it by, you know, maybe making one part kind of curve over the other a bit, you know, just add a little bit of extra little detail in there. If you have a gouge, you know, and you want to use that instead, by all means, use that. I haven't talked about gouges because, again, we're just focusing on the basic path to whittling, to the whittling hobby here. So, you know, stuff like that. We could do it in the beard here as well. Maybe put a couple little cuts just to start breaking it up a bit. Now, you know, you may ask, well, maybe the wood's going to check and all that, and you're going to be big cracks in the wood. Yeah, could be. That may happen. I don't know. I'm not too concerned about that, though. I kind of, like I've said in a number of videos, I don't really mind the look sometimes if it cracks. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll add a little wax to it. I find that even the Howard feed wax. It's not really a permanent thing. You can put a light coating of that, and it slows down the drying a little bit. And it doesn't lock in moisture altogether. And I find that kind of helps things. It prevents. I've had pieces that I've whittled pretty green, and I think sections of them that were not covered in the Howard feed and wax checked, and the ones that were didn't check. So it does tend to slow the drying down, allows the inside that dries a little bit slower to dry more in line with, or allows the outside the drying of the outside to slow down a bit. So it doesn't expand in the direction that's going to cause those type of checks. You know, I'm just going through here and just adding a little bit of cuts in here and there. I'm not gonna sit here and go through all that, but because I don't, you know, I think you pretty much have it down. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. And again, don't follow everything I do. Kind of create your own a little bit. Let's put a little bit of an indication of a mouth in here. I'm going to make two cuts in here, one over here and one over here. So we'll do this first. We'll put a little stop cut in straight into the wood, like so. Let's just cut up to that for the time being. All right. That way we can see it clearer. Let's see that. And then we'll come up over here and we'll do the same thing. We'll put a little cut in there, like so, and remove that one as well. And you'll see you have that little pointy thing sticking out on the bottom over there, right? You see how that is? Now, we don't want to leave it like that. We're just going to take off that triangle, that bottom, that pointy part. And just kind of round it up on both sides as much as possible. There you go. Now what I like to do is I'll come in here and I'll deepen this right underneath the mustache there, right above that little triangle we just cut. And deepen, put two cuts in there and then come right straight in. imagine this is going to be the lower lip. We're going to come straight in here and sort of almost flat. You can kind of see. And I just put my knife in and I take out a little chunk of wood in there that we cut. So it almost looks like he's got a little lip underneath there. And that's going to be the spot where he can hold his cigar or pipe. Or if you don't want him smoking, put a toothpick in there. Or make something look like a blade of grass, you know. That's a good one too. Or go out and pull a little blade of grass type thing. Put that in there. That'd be kind of fun. I always put pipes and cigars and stuff like that in there, but that's another option. Kind of fun, right? We're not going to worry about eyes or anything because he's just got hair all over the place. This is not too dissimilar to the video I've done, and I apologize if people feel that I'm being repetitive, but I think I'm approaching this in a slightly different way, gearing it the hillbilly one that I did a few weeks back. So it's a little bit more detail, not horribly so, especially the head. I mean, I didn't put any detail in the face. It was hair like this and everything too, and I like doing what else like that because, you know, people I feel can tackle those kind of those type of whittles, and you want to encourage people by showing them, you know, things that they can do pretty early on, and then they can get the detail down at a later point, you know, do the facial features and all that kind of stuff. Let's start with that right away. It's just going to discourage you to some extent. Now I'm just going to go around here. You can kind of see we got our little fella kind of done here. I'm probably going to add a little bit more variety in the hair. I think this is going to be broken up a little bit. It looks way too straight to me. We'll just kind of come in here, and this is where you just take your time. You go through, you sort of connect with your whittle, and make it your own. Then start adding a little bit of detail here to the hair and everything else. So I'm just going to sort of do that, and you can kind of see. You know, this is all just taking little triangular cuts around the hair just to make it look more interesting. But you know what? Before I do that, before I kind of leave you with that, let me just let's look at the hat real fast. What can we do here? This is sloping over this way. Let's put a little notch in here. It'll look like it's folding over a bit when you do that. Just put a notch in there. Cut down, cut up to it. I sort of bring it up just a bit. Let's see, I made it a little wonky there. Maybe I'll do another little notch over here as well. Again, just add a little custom detail to it. Whatever you think you kind of want. Don't follow exactly what I'm doing, you know. Or, you know, if you want to, go ahead. You know, be my guest. But, you know, try to come up with your own ideas, and you will. These are definitely videos that anybody could do, or videos, whittles that anyone could do. What I'm going to do here is just kind of bring this hat. I want to create a little bit, the way I'm looking at it here, I want to slope it up around the brim. So I'm just coming with my knife and rolling it up. You kind of see how we're moving here. Give it a little bit of a There you go. Look how. I mean, obviously it took a little time on the video because I'm talking and stopping and what have you. But you know, again, don't rush it. Video shouldn't. I keep saying videos. Whittle shouldn't. You shouldn't rush them. You should be enjoying what you're doing. And you know, if you're doing that, then you're doing the right thing. So there you go. What I'm going to do is just kind of go through here and see what I want to add or not add to it, and when I'm, you know, it's pretty much done. I might just add a little bit more hair detail here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty done. If there's anything that I'm looking at it, what I might want to do is, as you can see on the back here, if he was wearing some kind of coat or long, maybe it's who knows what it is, but it's going to probably want to bunch up here at the bottom, so maybe we just roll our knife in at the bottom here, something like that, you know, just to make it look. Just because they're simple whittles doesn't mean you shouldn't add a little bit of detail here and there that might seem appropriate. What I like to do with the base here is I'll come around the edge and I'll just kind of round it over a bit. I don't know if the bark's going to hold on or not. Sometimes if you're doing whittles like this and you're grabbing the bark and you're securing your whittle with, you know, by holding the bark in it, it starts to work itself loose. So, you know, keep that in mind. It may not hold on, but, you know, we'll do our best to keep a little bit of the bark on the bottom. Like I said, give them a little base to stand on. There you go. Then I'll, you know, like I said, I'll probably use a saw and cut it right there. I'm just going to clean it up a bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, there you go. All done here. As you can see, I cut it off, left a little bit of the bark on the bottom part there on his base. It was a fun little whittle to do. I'm sure most people could handle that. We didn't add all that much detail, just enough in the hair to add some character to it. He's chewing, if you can see there, he's chewing a piece of grass, and he's having a good old time just hanging out. It was a fun whittle to do. I hope it was a good introduction, or as I mentioned earlier, sort of a path to the whittling hobby. This is one way. Go out and grab yourself a branch. You saw some of the knives I used. If you have something similar to that, or you have a pocket knife or a dedicated whittling knife, a Stanley 199, you can try all those and you can whittle something like this. It's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to do. These are fun little whittles to do. And when you're done, if you're hanging outside, just leave it somewhere. Let someone find it. It's kind of a fun little thing to do. You could paint them up. I might throw. I'll see. It's still pretty wet, but I might throw a little craft paint on there just to add a little different color to it. But other than that, that's it. I hope you found that helpful, and let me know in the comments what you think of videos like this. Was it beneficial? And even if you aren't relatively new to the hobby, is whittling something like this something you find enjoyable? I love doing these kind of whittles. To me, they're the best kind of whittles to do. They're no stress. It's easy to do, and they're fun. Everybody kind of likes little things like this. You don't have to whittle a little guy like this. You can do a whole bunch of different type things in a branch of wood like that. They're really fun to do and quite enjoyable. So like I said, let me know in the comments what you think. But that's really about it for me. I hope you all have a great whittling week. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.